The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Kicking off a St. Patrick's Day here with Hail Varsity Radio, presented by Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark, and we're going to get things going. He's wearing his green. That also represents the color of his jump shot. Hall of Fame coach Jeff Smith, color of money green on St. Patrick's Day. Coach, hey, awesome time of year. It is March Madness. It is day 2 of the tournament. Thanks for jumping on and getting us started here with Hail Varsity for a few minutes. How you doing?
Doing great. It's a chance to wear my Celtic green today, and my wife came home last night with 3 TVs in the living room, so she knows what time of year it is. And yeah, it's a great time. Good to watch these games.
It is. Tell me what the experience was like for you with the Nebraska program. And Nebraska had been to an NCAA tournament before, but you were part of an era where it was kind of expected, and you guys delivered that expectation where Nebraska was always dancing in March with some awesome teams.
Yeah, we did it 4 times, and every time was just totally different. Our first one, we had kind of a dream season with that 26-8 team and got a 3 seed and played a really tough Xavier team, a 14 seed. And I could feel the pain of like Arizona yesterday. It just, those teams play so free when they're those bottom seeds. They're really aggressive. They're really free. I remember Xavier stripped our point guard 2 possessions in a row to start the game, and it was 4-0 before we could blink. They just saw a flaw in his handles and attacked him and got it twice. So we played from behind that entire game. Got in a good rhythm later, but just felt the pressure the whole game. Got it down to 2 with the ball. We knew they were going to come out zone. We tried to run a little skip against the zone, and they got a fingernail on it and tipped it away, and so we didn't get a good look. We had Carl Hayes on a slip on that one, I remember. We just didn't see it. But that was a game we clearly could have won and started our NCAA era off with a good win. It would have been a tough win, but we definitely could have pulled it out. And then, later on we play UConn, which they were just better than us at that time. We weren't quite as talented then. We had a good draw against Penn, but we had a really short turnaround time. I don't want to make excuses. We still could have won that game, but they had 2 guards that played in the NBA, and we won that. That was the year we won the tournament. On Sunday, and then we had to fly to New York and play on Thursday, and that was a tough turnaround. And I always tell people the thing that really got me was we walked off the practice floor in New York on Wednesday. You get an hour on the floor, and Piakowski looked at me and said, "Coach, I don't have my legs yet." And we were a little worried going into that one. And then New Mexico State kind of upset us too. So just couldn't quite get it done, but man, that is a special tournament to go to and be part of. And I would have given anything to get Nebraska their first NCAA tournament win. That was our whole focus, those years, because we were good enough to get in. And memory, those are the things you never forget. You never forget state tournaments. You never forget NCAA national tournaments, and just a lot of fun, a lot of great memories.
Coach Jeff Smith with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. And Coach, whenever you look at the teams that did get it done yesterday, there's really the 2 styles you can get it done with style, or sometimes you have to really be stressed through those last few minutes. And I think back to last night in particular, you have Penn State, a team that really was on fire last night. They got their NCAA tournament run started right. And you compare that to Houston, the 1 seed. They had to battle tooth and nail against Northern Kentucky just to take down the 16 seed. It was a really good game last night. And I want to get your take. How important is it to start your NCAA tournament run off in style? Is there anything to that, building some confidence in game 1 of the tourney when you're trying to make a deep run?
Honestly, I always felt first round tournament games are survive and advance. You just got to find a way to win. I think, you look at Virginia, obviously they play a style that those games are going to be, their games are going to be close, and they give people a chance to stay with them. If they could have just survived that game and really probably should have, that's a pass I've never seen a guard throw in that situation when you have the lead. That was baffling. I heard Chris talk about it yesterday. Baffling and frustrating if you had them picked. But my philosophy is that you never know what's going to happen in that first game. Every matchup's different, but that first game is the hardest one to win sometimes. I've had teams that you win that first one, even if it's an ugly win, then your teams kind of relax and become themselves again. And so that's kind of how I feel about it. But I understand momentum's important too. And Penn State played wonderful last night, and I hope they can keep that going, just kind of like they did in the tournament. I hope they can keep that going. So obviously they're feeling confidence from their momentum from the Big Ten tournament, and that carried over for last night too.
Coach Jeff Smith is with us on Hail Varsity Radio, and I have to ask you about Northwestern from last night. They looked pretty solid against Boise State from wire to wire. They held the lead for a long time in that game, and that was a game that I was, as somebody who grew up watching Northwestern, a little concerned about just because of the problems that Boise State kind of put to the forefront. But Northwestern was able to withstand a lot of 5-6 point runs, and they were able to get a first round victory.
Well, we saw it even in the high school boys state tournament. Guard play is crucial, and Boo Booey's been doing it all year for them and their guards. And I think Coach Collins said it after the game. He goes, our guards just carried us down the stretch. If you have good guard play, you have a chance in any game. Obviously, you need some big presence around the basket. If you don't have guards, you really don't have much of a chance in the NCAA tournament. And those two guards have been, Aldridge and him, have been carrying them all year with their play. And so that's their strength. And really think about, I think they were picked 12th in the Big Ten, coming in this year. What a great coaching job. But they have that guard experience, that guard athleticism, and the smarts that they have. They're a fun team to watch, but I think it comes down to their guard strength.
Jeff Smith with us, Hall of Fame coach and longtime assistant Nebraska basketball. Day 2 of the tournament, St. Patrick's Day. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by Currency. Few more minutes with Coach. So we've hit on a little bit of some of the matchups that we were looking at yesterday. We talked Nebraska and that golden era of Danson. Coach, what's on the to-do list for Fred Hoiberg moving forward? I know that the Denham is in the portal. I know Lawrence is back. And then there's a whole lot of time between now and this summer to go rekindle that roster via the portal. Nebraska will do that. Nebraska's in a good spot with NIL, and there's some momentum. 16-16 isn't good, but it's good in comparison to the previous 3 years. And we know the task at hand for Fred: be competitive and be bubble or better here a year from now. Yeah,
I think the one thing that we can feel good about is I think Fred and the new staff has kind of found themselves. I think they know their system, their style. They know that defense is going to help them win. I think they're going to emphasize that and maybe recruit to that a little bit. The Denham Dawson loss hurts defensively. He was a good defender and a good rebounder and an excellent athlete. And we got to look at, we talk a lot about how great Sam Griesel was coming back, and he was, but Derek Walker led us in 4 categories, and then Sam Griesel the other. So to think of Tominaga's success, probably be a lot of it because of Derek Walker's passing ability and handling ability, and took pressure off the other guards. So I was looking at kind of position by position. Well, first of all, if Tominaga goes, we lose 72% of our scoring. If he stays, we lose 53% of our scoring. So, I hope evaluation goes where Tominaga thinks, hey, I want to come back and play one more. But it'll be different playing without Derek Walker. And you look, point guard to me is crucial. And we just talked about guard play. We've got some unproven point guards. I don't know if Jamarcus Lawrence can be a combo guard or not, but you've got Karan McPherson coming off of an injury. And Ramil Lloyd is I think another combo guard, 6'6", but nobody's really proven at that position. At least Sam Griesel had played it in up at North Dakota State, so had some experience. And boy, you go first time around in the Big Ten as a point guard. I don't care how talented you are. That's a challenge. So, maybe that's something where you look portal for an experienced point guard. But you also saw the value of shooting when Tamanaga and Lawrence and when Griesel was making shots. And I have felt like Fred's whole tenure, and maybe you guys disagree, but I felt like every year Fred's been here, he's gotten our guys looks. Our guys have had looks. We've had years where we just can't shoot the ball well enough to fit his offensive system. I thought this year we fit his system better, and it was because we made shots. And Griesel could take care of the ball well enough, and Walker could help him. But then we could get Tamanaga looks. Lawrence got going at the end of the season. Bandamel shot it okay before he was, injured. But those guys late in the season started clicking from the perimeter and opening the floor up more for Walker. And, it fit his system finally and looked good. And there was games when we scored 70s, 80s and won with a little offense along with our better defense. So, but then Oleg's gone, which he contributed a little off the bench, but losing two bigs, you got to replace them too. So it's across the board, in my opinion. And you got to look for athletes that can defend in this league too.
Yeah, Coach, if Fred Hoiberg came to you and said, hey, I've got film on some transfer portal guys I've been evaluating, what type of guy do you think that Fred Hoiberg should be going after in the transfer portal? If you could pick one style of player that you think would really fit Fred Hoiberg in this Husker basketball team, what type of guy would you go after?
I'd go after a Bandamel type guy that can handle the ball, play some point. He, at least at SMU, his shooting stats showed that he could shoot the ball. And then he could guard about 4 positions. But some of the coaches I know also call the 4 position, kind of the Derek Walker position, the unicorn position, because they're hard to find. If Derek Walker could have stretched a little more, just think of how effective he could have been, shooting the ball. So I would always be looking, if I'm Fred, I'd always be looking for that 6'7", 6'8", 6'9" type player that can stretch and shoot, that can guard, that can handle a little bit. And can guard really all 5 positions on. That's a hard find. That's why it's called the unicorn. But those 2 type players is what would be my priority.
I want to go back to the conversation about the point guard and potentially going into the transfer portal. In your mind, is that absolutely necessary, or would you see a world where Fred Hoiberg trusts Jamarcus Lawrence to maybe kind of take the reins, because he's had the experience over the past year? I know he didn't start all the time, but he's had some very valuable experience. And obviously towards the tail end of the season, he started to play really, really well.
Yeah. And we don't get to see him. I saw, I think 3 or 4 practices. So, there were some practices even a year ago before Karan McPherson got hurt that I thought he had some capable skills at the point guard, kind of tough, strong, didn't turn it over a lot when I watched him, but I don't see him day to day, but I do think, and I sent a text to Coach Linzer. We've talked back and forth a little bit, and I asked him if he thought Jamarcus could play a combo guard and move to the point and how much he'd played. He said, yeah, he's played some, and we've worked him there and practiced some. We didn't need him really to move there this year, but maybe that's a change that they can make and say, you're our guy at the point, and hopefully that wouldn't take away from some of his scoring. I don't think it would, but it looks to me, and you guys can, your opinion, it looked like to me, he had the skills to do that with the way he handled the ball and his speed and quickness. You don't know about a guy's point guard mind, because that's a definite mentality you have to have, but I would give that a shot if Fred felt like that was a possibility, that he had the qualities of that position.
Hall of Fame coach Jeff Smith with us, Nebraska assistant, of course, a longtime great at Southeast. Hail Varsity Radio, day 2 of the NCAA tournament. Coach, we'll wrap up a couple of minutes here on Creighton. I know as we talk, things haven't tipped off. Now, Creighton has done a 180, and they are terrific. They are explosive. They can shoot. There's a lot of tension because of this first round matchup. As you look at Creighton, what's impressed you this year with Mac, this team, and what's their big picture look like?
Yeah, I think it's all based around Kalkbrenner to start, because he's such a great defender, such a rim protector. Obviously they lost, I think it was 6 in a row without him. 6 of those losses are without him on the floor when he was sick. And I think it starts with him. That's not necessarily their offensive identity, but he's their defensive identity and can also score around the rim. But I think it comes down to Trey Alexander and Nembhard. I think, again, we're going back to guard play. Alexander, I think, is a terrific scorer if he gets opportunities. Sometime, and I would throw Shireman in there as another guard. They really have a 3-guard lineup, and so that that allows them to handle the ball in a very efficient manner. All 3 of those guys are threats. I think all 3 can guard 3 or 4 positions, or at least 3 positions, and as much as they switch. So I would say their guard play stands out, which like we've repeated, helps you in the NCAA tournament a great deal. And then you have that rim protector inside. Kaluma's kind of been he's kind of a on-off guy. There's games he'll go off for 20 some and play really well. And then there's games he just isn't very efficient. He's still a little up and down. But he has the talent to explode on, like he did Kansas last year in the tournament. So their starting 5's really good. Their bench hasn't produced quite as much as I thought they might. But they're going to play their starting 5 a lot in this tournament. That's what they've built for. So I'd say Kalkbrenner around the basket, and then guard play with Shireman and Alexander and Nembhard is strong.
Coach Smith, awesome to spend time with you. Thanks for a few minutes today.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency. Jacob Padilla with us to talk all things Big Red basketball, some spring football, and, of course, the NCAA tournament. Jacob, you got to love this time of year, man. How are you?
Good. Yeah, it's basketball all over the place right now going on. So got to watch a full day of hoops yesterday, and then the Suns got off their losing streak. Campaign came alive. So yeah, just wall-to-wall hoops on Thursday, and great time of year.
In the Casa de Jacob Padilla, are you a 3-screen type of guy for your NCAA tournament? Or are you the type of guy that has the 1 screen, then you flip between the 3 different games? Which style are you through these 2 days, the crazy first weekend of March Madness?
So yesterday I went multi-screen for a lot of the day, and then kind of settled in on one later on. Because obviously the games at night weren't super compelling, so didn't need to necessarily try to split my attention all over the place then. But earlier in the day, yeah, had as many screens going as I could to try to keep up as this thing got started.
I got punched in the face via email by YouTube TV. Oh, we're going to raise your rate another $12. Thank you. There's my middle finger.
Hey, but they gave you the multi.
That's right. It was going. They softened they gave me some ice for my jaw, at least, with the fact that I got the multi-screen. That was cool. I appreciate that.
But the problem is every single time
$12 cool.
Every single time those streaming services raise their rates, it drives me closer and closer back to online piracy.
Well, my dear old dad,
you went away from that?
God rest his soul.
Connor, you're admitting to a felony on the air here.
Dad was the first to be like, hey, it's $50 and it's the same as cable. And now it is the same as cable for what I was paying. But hey, I'm too lazy to flip and shop, Jacob.
I'll never forget that Nebraska-Missouri Thursday night game in the rain, because that was the first time I ever streamed a sporting event online. They had it on back before it was ESPN Plus. It was ESPN 360, and it was free online. So I got to watch that game for free online. And then like a couple of months later, they made it a charged thing. And I went, oh, of course, the companies are going to try to get more money in their pocket. But that was cool. That was my first memory of streaming online. And now everything's that way.
I miss the Thursday night ESPN games in Columbia or in Stillwater. Jacob, let's start off here. How much roster shakeup are you anticipating? What are you hearing? What are the murmurs out there with Nebraska and guys that have a chance to return? Who may be looking in the portal with Coach Hoiberg and company? Nebraska needs to hit the portal, obviously, for their roster, but there's guys that have another year left that could be heading out, correct?
Yep. We know Sam Griesel, Derek Walker, and Emmanuel Bandamel are done. So that's 3 roster spots cleared. We've already seen Oleg Koyanets and Denham Dawson enter the portal so far. And I think this week probably Coach Hoiberg had the exit interviews with the team. Typically when you start to see this stuff trickle out after the coaches sit down and discuss kind of the future and potential roles and everything with the players after the season. And I would be surprised if that was it. I think that we'd probably see at least another rotation player enter the portal. And I think the average is right around 3 per team. And we're at 2 so far. So that would one more would hit us, kind of get us to right to that average. I mean, you can probably just look at the guys that have gotten a chance to play and maybe haven't developed, for guys that might be looking elsewhere at this point, that where it just maybe hasn't quite clicked. So that's kind of where you're at. I think you're probably good with your core of guys coming back, the Juwan Gary, the Jamarcus Lawrence, I think with the role that is probably waiting for him next season. I think Blaze Keita, just with the way the season has gone, from an injury standpoint, I think that's more one where, all right, let's try to get healthy and run this back again. And obviously he was a valuable defensive piece. Casey Tominaga would be great to get him back. I think it's probably an uphill battle considering what options he's going to have professionally. He's already completed his degree, I believe. He's been in college for 4 years. And the international NIL kind of wrinkle is in there. So if you can get him back, that would be the first massive win of the offseason, but I'm not expecting it. So I think that's kind of the core that you're bringing back, and then you got to kind of round out the team around those guys.
Now, Jacob, whenever you look at the transfer portal situation, do you think Fred is going to want more flexibility this offseason with guys entering the transfer portal? Is this a good thing for him? And then as a follow-up to that, if you're on the advisory committee for Fred Hoiberg, I asked the same question to Jeff Smith last segment. What type of guy would you be advising Fred Hoiberg to go after? What type of film work would you be looking for in terms of looking for a fit for this Husker basketball team?
Good news is they got a lot of holes to fill. So there isn't necessarily one guy that you're like, all right, I need this. You need a few different guys. So you can go out and kind of cast a bit of a wide net, try to get the most talented players that show interest, as long as they kind of fit with the kind of the new direction of the program. That was kind of part of the key to this last season, and the turnaround is the way Sam Griso and Juwan Gary and Amanda Banamel that kind of established that culture, along with Derek Walker, of the defensive mindedness, the hustle, the hard work that maybe was absent the past 3 years, the teamwork. Those guys kind of fit into that and fostered that, and the young guys kind of took their lead. So you need guys, you gotta be careful. You need guys that are going to kind of continue with that trend, that mold of, because basically you got to go out and get your best players next year. In order to push this thing forward, they're going to have to be really successful in the portal. They're going to have to find Sam Griso, Derek Walker replacements. Obviously, those were the 2 best players on the team and the guys that kind of drove everything, all their success outside of Casey over the last half of the season. So you're going to probably need an offensive big, a guy that you can rely on to provide you with some scoring, some box score production. I think you like Keita's potential defensively, but he's still a complete wild card on whether or not he'll be able to give you anything on offense at this level. I think you need another primary playmaker, another point guard. That you've got Ramel Lloyd Jr. I should have mentioned him coming off the red shirt as kind of a big wing playmaker type. We'll see kind of what he settles into as a role. But you need another point guard, the ball handler type. And then I think that's probably where you got to start. And then if you can get a scoring wing, especially considering Casey's status, if you lose him, then that's a lot of it's 12 points a game you got to replace, and 20 points a game over the last second half of the season. So that's kind of where you're looking at to start. Those are kind of the main holes you got to fill. and then kind of keeping in mind the personality, the kind of the intangible side of things in terms of keeping this culture going forward and building off of what they did this year.
Jacob Padilla is with us on Hail Varsity Radio, and I want to go back to Ramel Lloyd and Quran McPherson and, those guys that didn't see time this year because of injury, redshirt, etc. What do you make of those two guys in particular, and what do you think they can bring to the table next year throughout all of this roster turnover?
Yeah, Quran, it's just tough to know at this point. Obviously, 2 years here, hasn't gotten a chance to play at all. They raved about his kind of personality and how tough he was and the defense that he provided on the scout team during his redshirt year. So it seems like he's a guy that kind of fits into the mold that the kind of the new style of play that they established this past season. But we got to see kind of what he can provide from an offensive standpoint, especially coming off of missing an entire year. So that's kind of a wild card. You expect him to probably be in that mix as a ball handler, but kind of what those roles look like will depend on what they can land. Like, is Lloyd going to be a guy that you're going to rely on to handle the ball, or do you want to play him kind of more off the ball, and then you landed the starting point guard in the portal, and then McPherson's kind of looking to fill the backup role. He would have been in the mix for that this year when they ended up having Banabel have to be the backup point guard because they just weren't comfortable enough with what other options they had at that point. And Lloyd and Cale Jacobson, those guys redshirted. So as for Lloyd, he's a pretty important piece to this thing. He was the highest rated recruit in that recruiting class last year. I would say he's 6'6", long. He's got some playmaking ability. I think fans probably saw his dad release the kind of the highlight reel from their practices with him being kind of the go-to guy on the scout team. He's a guy that was imitating star wings, star guards for teams all season long. And he chose to use this redshirt to work on his game and to try to make strides and to make the most of this to prepare himself for the next season, as opposed to maybe playing a minor role, maybe not have a role early on, second half of the season, especially with the injuries piling up. Maybe you can crack the rotation then. Decide, you know what, I'm just going to take the entire year off. I'm going to work hard on my game and try to get myself ready to play next year. And now the opportunity is clearly going to be there for him if he made the progress that he was hoping for, because he is a guy, again, that provides something different than anybody else on the roster. He is kind of not the same game as Sam Griso, but 6'6", the ability to play some point. So you got bigger positional size there. And he's got some scoring ability. I mean, that's kind of what he showed in high school that made him a well-regarded recruit. And now he's had an entire year to kind of polish things up to figure out the system and where he fits in that. So if he can be a good player for them next year, that would go a long way towards kind of stabilizing and keeping this thing moving forward.
Jacob Padilla is with us, HailVarsity.com and magazine at Jacob Padilla _ where you find him on Twitter. Be sure to follow Jacob for all the Husker basketball updates, portal news. Of course, Jacob will get some thoughts on Creighton here next week from you, bud, and anxious to talk some spring ball with you. Thanks for giving us a few minutes today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Again, fun time of year.
He's in his 30s, but sounds like he was born with a stogie in one hand and a brew in the other.
Now, say my name.
It's Schmidty on Hail Varsity Radio.
I got the body of a taut, preteen Swedish boy.
Well, not Sweden, but Ireland.
And not in your 30s. No, can we update this liner? What is going on? The guy is he's squarely in his 40s.
He won't let me update it. Hey, he won't let me update it.
Speaking of, you can do what you want. Speaking of birthdays, the bunny, my wife, Erin.
Yes.
Erin is 39 again. Today.
Congratulations.
She is
her.
wonderful.
That is so cool that she gets to
I gave her the
start
gift
over.
that keeps on giving. I got the hell out of the country for it.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
Man, she was so. She called me about that a year ago. She's like, "Would you please? I got a big birthday coming up.
Sure.
Can you get him the hell out of the continent?"
Feed him
I'm like,
these.
yes.
Feed
I
him
got you.
these. So in the backdrop,
I'm like, do you want him to stay in the hemisphere? She's like, yeah, that's fine. But as long as
Ted
he's
is
off the
with us.
continent.
Let's give shout outs. Ted's with us. We're staying with Ted, Nebraska fan. Jim is here, and we're working on that determination, Nebraska or Missouri.
So I think we could just ask right now.
Mark Kraynak, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Mary Cobbler's where we're at. Union Bank and Trust making this happen.
Stone's
Thank
throw
you.
away from the stadium. And Jim, what did you determine? Are you a Husker fan or a Missouri fan? If you got Scott Frost versus Corby Jones in a cage match, who are you rooting for?
Frost will win.
It's tough.
Win now and win then.
You might have some of your Missouri classmates listening. Yeah. I respect how challenging this is. Born in Lincoln, went to Missouri, married to a Husker fan, season ticket holder for Nebraska basketball. This is a difficult question, but it has to be answered, and it has to be answered now.
Knowing how tough Huskers and what Frost went through when he was a player, I would not want to be in a cage with Mr. Frost. So I would say,
Where were you for the 97 game?
97 game, I was there.
Yeah.
Were you hanging on the goalpost?
So I had my family. It was split, and had my family on one side. I was on the other side. My wife and I were still married. We're still doing good.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, go Big Red.
Yay! There we go.
Well done.
There we go. We got it. All
We
right.
have Irish trivia now. Is this what it is? Trivia or slang?
Irish trivia time.
Slang, not trivia. Forgive
Irish
me.
slang.
This is where we you're gonna have to get up to speed on this stuff, lads, over the next few days. You're gonna have to get up to speed.
Do you have?
And Ted has pressure
Can you hear this
tested.
or no?
No,
he
just call
cannot
them out
hear.
as you go, and I'll keep you fresh.
But Ted has pressure tested all of these questions from Elijah to see if it is legitimate Irish
okay,
slang, and he
okay.
has blessed all of them as legitimate Irish slang. And so the question is, can we translate what this Irish slang actually means?
Real quick, when you hear Rudy, what do you think of?
Jesus. I'm not sure I can say that.
Don't answer that question. Don't answer that question.
All I'll say is it'll probably mean something very different here.
Okay.
You won't want to say that if you're going to the toilet. That's all I'll say.
All right. Okay. All right, Elijah, let's get this party started.
Okay, we're going
Talk
to start
to
off.
us.
Our first word is flothered. Flothered is the word. Flothered. Most of Husker Nation will be flothered on Saturday.
Spell that.
Flutthered.
Most of Husker Nation will be flothered. I'm just going to go with that means hammered. I'm going to say that means hammered.
Well, we'll see
Drunk.
if Schmidty can get it under control.
No, I'm fine.
Correct.
I would say distracted.
Okay. Flothered does in fact mean
the
drunk.
The Irish language is, though, lads. It's very important. You can actually insert any word into that sentence and it still works. So you could be Mini Coopert. You could be Nebraska. You could be runs it. You can be just about anything, but they all mean the same thing. You're on your way home to get to bed because you've had too much to drink.
Okay. That's flothered. All right.
Okay. Well,
And,
what's next, Elijah?
Our next word, similar to Rudy, it's opposite though. It has a completely different meaning in Ireland than in the United States. The word is, it's actually two words, a cute whore.
Cute core?
Cute
A cute whore. A cute
what?
whore. A cute whore.
A cute whore?
Yeah, I know. Just roll with it. It's okay. It means something. A cute whore.
Well, I suppose that just means
called Saturday night.
a prostitute that's not ugly. I don't know.
That's full set of teeth.
What does that mean?
No. Come on. Throw it.
Cute whore?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
It's a type of castle, isn't it?
It's kind of someone who's cheekily smart, kind of like clever.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Used a
kind
lot
of
in the
like-
political
What did
scene,
you
apparently.
say
Kinda
before?
like-
cheeky. What did you say?
Cheeky.
Cheeky. Okay.
Cheeky,
Kinda like
cheeky
Schmidt.
Smart aleck.
Yeah,
Oh,
very smart.
okay,
Yeah.
So you have to even do that one.
Kind of like Schmidt. Schmidt's a cute whore. Next. What's the next question?
Okay, next word. It's a phrase
Thank you,
again.
baby.
Acting the maggot. Schmitty today has been acting the maggot.
Acting the maggot.
Acting the maggot.
Acting the maggots.
So that's when you're rolling around in rancid meat.
Jim's got something there.
No. I was just saying, maggot, small creature. feeds on dead things. After the game,
acting the maggot.
I don't know.
Tell me. I have no earthly idea or guess.
It's an Irish term for fooling and messing around.
Acting the fool, being a fool.
Yes, it's acting the
I'm
bit of
acting
a
a
messer.
fool?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't know maggots were fools. I thought they were smart.
Why am I being a fool today?
Yeah. You're acting the maggot.
You always are. You're joking around. You're having a good time.
Would be Kraynak
You cute whore.
Yeah.
You cute whore.
Yeah, I'm a cute whore.
You can put them all together, yeah.
I feel flustered.
Next question.
Next word is banjacked.
Van Jack?
Banjaxed. Excuse me, it's an X in there.
I can't
Banjaxed.
spell it.
Banjaxed.
Banjaxed?
Banjaxed.
Like B-A-N?
Banjaxed.
Excited. Excited.
Befuddled.
You guys are both wrong. It is broken. Like that chair is banjaxed.
Oh, it's broken.
Okay.
Yeah. Then if you fixed it, what is it?
When Kraynak went to Ted's toilet, he was banjaxed.
Yes. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, the toilet was fine when we arrived, and then you banjaxed it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Got it.
Yeah.
So Frost banjaxed last season.
Northwestern will be banjaxed at the end of the game.
Got it.
Fair.
Okay.
Well done.
There. Yeah. Okay. Next word is actually a phrase. Donkey's years.
Donkey's ears?
Years.
Donkey
Years.
Donkey years.
Donkey ears. My brother's nickname back in the day was Uncle Donkey.
And then, okay, what if we added years to that?
Here's your ear.
Donkey years?
Years or ears?
Years. Like the period of time. Years.
Years. Donkey years.
Well, we know
It's like dog years.
Yeah.
Donkey years.
7 years.
Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe it's shorter. Instead of 7 years, dog years.
You'd be very wrong. It just
Ass
means
years?
it means a very long time. They have lived there donkey
Very long
years.
time. Yeah,
a very
donkey's
long
years.
time.
So if I said my dog lived for donkey's years.
Okay.
Donkey years.
Forever.
Yeah, so you just kept going.
Okay, the last one we have about a minute left here, is
Last
Colchi. Colchi. That woman is a
Colchi?
This one is gone for Colchi.
Spell that.
C-O-L-C-H-I-E.
I would say uppity.
Huh.
It's a descriptive term rather than
An attitude.
yeah.
Short,
So it's a type
big,
of person.
heavy, thin.
Sunburn.
Not getting any closer here.
Yeah, you're gonna.
30 seconds left. Get your final guess in.
Final guess, guys. Final guess before we have.
Tall and tan.
No.
No, it means
You guys are in the big smoke. You're in the big smoke, which is Dublin, and that's where all of us, the kind of the people that live in the city are, and then the Colchis are the people that live in the countryside.
Okay, so rural.
Yeah, but
rural's
I
a great
wouldn't.
word.
It's not a term of endearment. If you're a
yeah.
Colchi,
It's like rednecks.
you don't like being
Boonies.
called.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. You don't like being called
rednecks.
Colchis.
Okay, there we have it.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll wind down a Thursday road show. Mary Cobbler, Hail Varsity on the road, Nebraska Northwestern in Dublin. And big thanks to Union Bank and Trust for making this happen.
And now,
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Rolling through this Friday, St. Patrick's Day, NCAA Tournament Day edition of Hail Varsity Radio. It's Elijah Herbel wrapping up hour one here for you, as we've heard this hour from the coach, Jeff Smith, Hall of Famer, leading off hour one with us as we talk some NCAA tournament with Coach Smith. We followed that up with Jacob Padilla as Jacob continued the NCAA tournament talk, as well as talking a little bit about what Nebraska might be looking to do this offseason, transfer portal news and notes as well from Jacob Padilla. And then we heard Schmidty and Mark Kraynak out in Dublin, Ireland, as a part of our coverage of Nebraska Northwestern leading off the 2022 season. We hit some Irish trivia, slang trivia that is, with Schmidty and Mark, as that was a fun segment to do back in August. It was fun to hear it again here on St. Patrick's Day. And if you're spending your St. Patrick's Day here with us on Hail Varsity Radio, we do truly appreciate you. Reminder about all the places you can watch or stream this show. It's going to be posted up in podcast form. That's Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Amazon Music, or Spotify as well. You can also catch the live stream on the Hail Varsity YouTube page, as well as the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter page. The KFOR Sports Twitter page as well is where you can find the live stream. And again, as always, you can find the live stream either live during the show or it's also posted up on the Hail Varsity YouTube page following the show, and you can catch it at any point if you prefer to watch along as you listen in to Hail Varsity Radio. Got a lot of good stuff coming your way next hour. We'll get there in just a second, but quickly, I want to make a little aside here while I have 90 seconds of soapbox time. Green beer on St. Patrick's Day. I mean, whenever you're watching an NCAA tournament, you got St. Patrick's Day. This is one of the better beer drinking days of the year, and we've talked enough on this show about my diet, knowing that I don't think I'm going to be able to take down too many green beers today, but do I really want to? That's a great question in my mind. Green beer, it just seems wrong. Yeah, sure, it's festive. But the fact that you're drinking like a green Miller Lite or Busch Light or Bud Light doesn't feel very Irish, doesn't feel very festive. And the fact that it's green, it's like green ketchup. Like, I don't want to eat green ketchup. I don't want to drink green beer. Like, do I have a point here? I don't know. Maybe I'm just rambling at this point as we close hour one. Green beer and Elijah Herbel, they don't go together. I just don't think it's right. And every single time somebody like posts it up on their Facebook or their Twitter or their Instagram, I just go, like, look in the mirror next time you order yourself a green beer. Maybe that's just me. And I'm probably going to end up getting a green beer, and I'm going to come back and have to burn the tape on this because, yeah, sure, it's festive. I think the real festive way to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, get yourself some corned beef, get yourself some cabbage, either a black and tan or a Guinness. And I know black and tans aren't technically Irish. If you go over to Ireland, as Chris and Mark did a couple months ago, and you try to order a black and tan, they'll give you a funny look and maybe kick you out the pub. But that's what I think the proper way to celebrate St. Patrick's Day is I'm going to gatekeep how you celebrate your holiday 100% here on Hail Varsity Radio. Anyway, I digress. I just think St. Patrick's Day could use some improvement, but I'll be watching the tournament nonetheless tonight once we finish up this show, as opposed to truly celebrating St. Patrick's Day. That's my real holiday, the NCAA tournament. We got a lot coming your way here next hour as we're going to lead off hour two with our usual Friday spot. Bill Doleman, the pride of Fairbury, joining us, leading off hour two. We're also going to hear from Brady Oltmans, talk some Husker football, talk some NCAA tournament, a spring preview from Brady Oltmans. Then we'll cap off hour two, rewinding our interview with Luke Gifford a little bit earlier this week. He is headed from Dallas to Nashville, going to be a new member of the Tennessee Titans. We heard from Luke Gifford a little bit earlier this week, and we're going to hear that interview yet again. Luke, kind enough to give us a few minutes of his time earlier this week. Again, that's all coming your way in hour two. Hail Varsity Radio rolls on after the break.
The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Back into it. It's hour two. It's Hail Varsity Radio. Hope St. Patty's Day is treating you well. We welcome in the pride of Fairbury, NBC Sports, the professor, also wearing green. Coach Jeff Smith kicked us off in hour one. Pride of Fairbury, you are down in FLA, my friend. How is spring break treating you? Did Tabitha Soren say hello?
Well, first of all, I didn't know it was St. Patty's Day, so the green is purely by accident.
It's been one of those spring breaks for you, huh?
I had no idea. It could have been April 1st for all I know. But let's just say it's a little different this time around than, say, Daytona Beach 1989. But nevertheless, a good time has been had by all.
Well, good for you, man. And, yeah, I'm going to leave my Daytona story for the book. We'll just leave it there.
What happens at Daytona Beach stays at Daytona Beach.
Unless you're detained. But, no, it's, yeah, you're taking one on the chin for all Nebraskans going to Daytona Beach. Is it bike week down there? Is there a lot of leather going on, or have you missed bike week?
First of all, I'm not in Daytona. Okay. I am in Florida. I'm more on the what are they calling this? The Redneck Riviera. I'm over by Pensacola, Destin.
Okay, so you're in that
area. I didn't think I could go back to Daytona. They probably still have pictures out.
So what he's saying is, yes, a lot of leather. No, it's not bike week.
Okay. Yeah. Bill, it's the calm before the storm with the Nebraska football program as spring ball gets rocking Monday, 6 a.m. and early, right? Showing for Nebraska. But wanted to get your take here. I thought this was awesome and saw bits and pieces of it. We'll start here with the roundtable, right? Trev Albert sits down with Coach Osborne and Matt Rule. That got dropped last night, and they talk about physicality. Trev starts off talking about the Orange Bowl. He had gone off to the Colts, so he was on the sideline of that 95 Orange Bowl. In 1995, Coach Rule was on Penn State, so they were cheering for Miami. But it was pretty cool to see all three of these guys, T.O., Matt Rule, and Trev, just talk ball, talk about practice, its importance, talk about physicality. What do you think of that? You've been part of projects in the past with Husker Vision where you guys did some really neat stuff.
I haven't had a chance to see all of it either, but I did watch a little bit. The thing that strikes me in the overall, the setup, the idea, it's great. There's no question about it. Matt Rule, when he speaks to the press, speaks at functions, wherever you see him, he has a command of the room, and he has a confidence that he knows what he's doing. And I don't mean this to say this in the wrong way. But when he's around Tom Osborne, you just get the sense that there is a genuine reverence and respect for T.O. I'm not saying Matt Rule is a know-it-all kind of guy. He just knows exactly what it is that he wants to do with his program and why they do what they do, right? All of his assistant coaches know and believe in what Matt Rule wants to do and why he does what he does. But when Tom Osborne is brought up, or when Tom Osborne is in the room, or whatever, I just think that there is that necessary reverence for what T.O. did and an appreciation for what T.O. did. I don't think it's phony at all. I don't think he pays lip service to his respect for Tom Osborne, and I think that's really critical. And for Tom to sit down and have this conversation with Trev, certainly it's a favor to Trev. Certainly it's a favor to Matt Rule, but I think there's a genuineness to the whole thing that maybe we've not seen for 20 years in this program, from the guy at the top of the program now to the man who built it.
Bill, in your opinion, is there a right amount of influence for Tom Osborne over this Husker football program? Because we know he's going to be involved in some way with just how deeply connected he is with Husker football, and every coach has treated it in their own way. Is there a right way to go about that, in your opinion?
I don't think Tom, my opinion is, I don't think Tom necessarily, to say he wants to be involved, that's probably, doesn't want to be involved, that's probably not accurate. But I think it's just, I think when he says, I'll do whatever they ask me to do, I think he means that. And so if somebody in the past 20 years hasn't wanted Tom involved, he's probably been a little hurt by that. But I think that you have to have him around. And I think when the players sense Matt Rule's respect for T.O. and what he built, I think that will, maybe give them more of an idea of what the past was like, what the traditions are all about. I'm sure some of those players have never even heard of Tom Osborne, and once that you have him around and you fully understand and appreciate what the program really is all about, and the character and the traditions and the principles as to why Nebraska did what it did and why it was so successful, I think if you can tie that all together for the current generation of players, it's really going to be a healthy thing, so that you're not just paying lip service to black shirt tradition and guys really don't understand that, or running the football, power football, those kinds of things. If it can be personalized with the man himself genuinely, then I think that's really going to be a helpful thing and a healthy thing for the program going forward.
Bill, if you're Matt Rule in this spring ball period, what's the biggest goal that you want to accomplish between now and the end of spring ball?
Well, they're always going to say we got to make sure we stay healthy through spring ball. But as we've seen in the last, couple of major athletic, events, the combine, you've got one of the top offensive linemen blowing his knee out. And then you've got Edwin Diaz getting hurt in the World Baseball Classic celebration. Injuries happen anywhere at any time. So to think you're going to, touch football yourself through spring football You just can't do that. So he's going to say, we got to stay healthy. But I think most important thing is to get those lines. And he's a line guy, right? He talks about that all the time. Those are my guys. Those are my guys. I think that there has to be a real emphasis on those offensive and defensive lines being the foundation on which this program is built. Certainly you want to see what Jeff Sims can do. There's a huge stable of, I think, pretty talented running backs. The wide receivers are young without Trey Palmer. So there's a lot of places where you want to get a good look at who the best personnel is going to be. But there has got to be depth and efficient depth at the offensive, especially the offensive and defensive lines. And if those are rules guys, the spotlight's got to be on them, I think.
Few minutes, Bill Doleman, Pride of Fairbury, NBC Sports with us, spring breaking it, Hail Varsity Radio, presented by Currency, spring football thoughts. And that's a good take on the wideouts, the offensive line. And it will be mixed and matched just because of Teddy being out. Also, you'll get a look-see at some guys that aren't named Ty Robinson because he's out. Bill, I was thinking about this. What do you feel like Wynn can bring this spring to a new staff? Because this defense needs two dudes to be able to stop the run, and then everyone else needs to be good at tackling and be fast, but you need two just pluggers, really, that can eliminate any A or B gap run game. Wynn's got the body type. He's been a Bama guy. He still has a year of eligibility. Don't know if that means he's in it for another year at Nebraska or not, but he's still on the roster, and he's got a spring left in him. So how critical do you think he is to the progress of this defense with what Coach White wants to do?
Well, I was thinking about that after I talked about the lines. There's going to be a lot of attention on the defense with that 3-3-5 and exactly what that's going to look like with Nebraska football. You got to have guys. If you got a 3-3-5, it's all about angles. It's probably the most geometric defense that there is. And I can remember Rocky Long, who was the architect of the 3-3-5, talking to me about that years ago when he was at New Mexico and I was doing games in the Mountain West. So I had a little bit better understanding. But you just have to get guys who can get from A to B at the right angle, in the best possible fashion. So if you can find some guys that have the size in the middle and linebackers, that's the critical thing, is linebackers who can get, a step to the line to make the play at the line of scrimmage and not 3 or 4 yards downfield. So, the defensive line, especially if there's only two or three, big dudes up there, your linebackers have to be really, really fast. Almost those Ed Stewart-like linebackers that Nebraska built the defense around back in the early 1990s. And if you can find those guys who are making that point of contact right by, right at the line of scrimmage, that's the whole key to everything. See ball, get the ball, and hit ball as quickly as you possibly can. That's the key for any defense. But the angles of the defense and the point of the point from A to B is so critical. But you're right, defensive linemen are so they're overlooked. They're not going to get a lot of tackles, but they're the ones who set up the entire defense for everybody behind them and around them.
Bill, as you look at that defense as a whole getting into spring football, what are you going to be watching for, both from press conferences following practices, and then once you get to the spring game, what are you going to be watching for from that defense through spring football?
Well, I think Nebraska's got to have guys on the outside. We were talking about the guys in the middle, but you got to get to the quarterback. Oh, my gosh. Last year there was so much hope for O'Shawn Mathis that he was going to be, the next, Randy Gregory or somebody who was in the backfield all the time. And I think we saw right away in the Northwestern game, I don't think their dude got hit. And the Northwestern game really set the tone, well, for the whole season for everybody, I guess. But defensively, when you're not seeing their quarterback get hit at all, and then game after game after game where there wasn't a sack or a hurry or a quarterback on the ground, that to me was devastating for that defense. The quarterbacks were clean at the end of games. That cannot be the case. If you're not going to get the sack, you got to get the hit. And they didn't do that at all last year. So whoever's going to be on the outside, that to me is the most critical thing as to who's going to step up and show some speed to get into the backfield.
Bill Doleman with us here. A couple more minutes at Hail Varsity Radio. Bill, going to switch gears. Thoughts on the NCAA tournament day one reaction, and overall, we were just kind of smiling about how great a day it is with the tournament, the joy, the upsets. We also touched on yesterday at Longwell's moments of madness and sadness with Husker football, a moment of, oh my God, they just really did that. You're pleasantly surprised, and then clearly the sadness part, there's a lot to pick from over the last couple of decades or maybe beyond that. So take on the NCAA tournament, and do you have a Husker fond memory, the madness part, and then a sadness part?
You're talking about with Husker basketball?
No, with football.
Okay, because I don't want to talk about the Orange Bowl in Miami in 1984. I don't want to talk about that at all. If you want the ultimate moment of Nebraska football sadness. But, hey, by the way, it's 29 years ago today that Nebraska, a number 6 seed, was in the NCAA tournament with a clear path to round 2, because all they had to do was beat Penn in their opening game in a 6-11 matchup.
Penn
and
had
somehow
Michael Jordan.
And let Penn have scored 90. Penn hasn't scored 90 points since then.
No, Penn had
right?
Michael Jordan. That's all there is to it.
29 points. Or 29 years ago today, Nebraska's best chance to win an NCAA tournament game went by the wayside. I really like. I've not paid much attention to the NCAA tournament. I like Virginia and Arizona to come through their brackets. We have a little bit more coffee on that one.
It's the Irish coffee on St. Patty's Day for Bill Doleman.
Yeah, Jameson, get me through the morning.
It's a song.
I think this NCAA tournament is what I've said all season long. It's just a bunch of club fighters knocking each other out. You don't have a dominant team. Alabama clearly, I think, is the most talented, but they just have way too many issues going on. They pop up with a story yesterday that there was another player involved in that incident, and now they got to put that fire out. And I think those are just stories that are planted to mess with them. And then Miller doesn't score yesterday. I don't see a top seed going through. Because I don't want Kansas to. I think Purdue has to have, solid guard play every game out, and they're going to rely on their big man more than you should have to in an NCAA tournament. So I don't see Purdue. I don't think Houston looked very good last night against Northern Kentucky. They're injured, and they've got to play Auburn basically on the road in round 2. And then I think I've run through them: Kansas, Houston, Purdue, and Alabama. I don't see any of the top seeds making it through, as much as I'd like to see Houston get there. So I think you might see a 3 or a 4 probably win the whole thing, and that could be Tennessee, Baylor, somebody who's been there and understands how to win.
UCLA could be good.
Maybe Creighton, as much as that pains me to say, they've got great guard play. Maybe Creighton. I just don't see it. I think this is a team or a tournament where you got 20 teams that could possibly win it.
For the sake of my bracket, here's hoping that's Gonzaga.
Zags. Could be. Who do you have winning it, Bill? Real quick, about 30 seconds.
Who do I have winning it?
Van Halen over Def Leppard.
I'm looking here. I think Tennessee, Indiana.
Okay.
Are 2 of my favorites to win it.
All right.
Maybe Texas. I don't have my bracket in front of me. I just wrote teams that I liked.
In the sand.
Those are 3 teams that I really like: Tennessee, Texas, and Indiana.
Bill Doleman, Pride of Fairbury, sheriffing Florida right now on spring break. Billy D, we will see you next week when you get back to Nebraska. Thanks for a few minutes with us today.
I got to go back.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it. It's Hail Varsity Radio. Happy St. Patrick's Day. We welcome in with HailVarsity.com and magazine staff writer Brady Oltmans, at Brady Oltmans on Twitter. So is Archie rocking a green collar today, your corgi? Roz is a Labradoodle, so she's probably eaten something green today. Gertie's the German, and she refuses to participate in anything St. Patrick's Day related. So we've got a divided house. How's your little guy, Archie, doing? What's he think of St. Patty's Day?
No green collar, but he'll have plenty of green on him by the time the snow melts, and he's just rolling around in grass and eating plenty of it for lunch. So that's about as festive as he gets.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I didn't know. So listen, Brady, are you going Irish stew, Reuben, or corned beef and cabbage after this interview?
Out of those three, I got to go Reuben. I mean, I could eat all three, but that one's just,
to win.
It's jumping off the bat right now for me.
It sounds good. It's a win. Spring ball, are you ready? 6 a.m., bright and early. I don't know if you're going to be knocking the sleds down or not, but I know that you'll provide great coverage. A lot of things to talk about, man, and look forward to. With this Nebraska football team. And you had a really good story, HailVarsity.com, Brady, on the 335 and what Coach White, Mr. White, as I like to call him, has been searching for and what he'll be kind of honing in on here this spring for the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, to be honest with you guys, I'm fascinated. I've loved researching and looking after this 335, and I'm kind of interested in just how Tony White implements it and how it's going to look at Nebraska, because we'll kind of start at the front end. He likes to attack. He likes to be aggressive. He's kind of like alluded to it, and it's true to a certain extent. They blitz every single play. It's not a conventional blitz, but somebody's attacking. They're always attacking. They're always aggressive. Now, that could be someone up front. They're kind of jostling positions to see who's going to be where. They don't have a conventional interior anchor guy. They've got a couple, like Stephen Wynn is back. Ty Robinson will be back, but he's kind of limited this spring because of an injury he got at the end of the season. So I'm interested to see how that spring ball kind of that big, meaty interior of the defense works out. Edge rushers and linebackers are going to be really interesting, where guys kind of fit in and mold and where they kind of go personnel-wise. That's really going to be, to me, if somebody or a group of guys can emerge from there, that's going to really rely on how successful the defense is, because on the back end, Nebraska returns a lot of good guys in the secondary, some NFL caliber guys that Evan Cooper really likes, and Tony White's at Syracuse and even at Arizona State, and as a cornerbacks coach at San Diego State, that pass defense under him immediately improved. So I just think that there's a lot of upside there, even year one for the entire defense.
Brady, about a month ago on this show, I listed the interior defensive line as being my biggest area of concern with Husker football going into spring ball and going into 2023. And I want to get your take on that. Is the interior defensive line as concerning to you? Because I look at the depth and I look at the experience, at least in Big Ten play, and it's really not there.
Yeah, because Ty, Steven, and Nash are really the only three guys with big-time college snap experience. And you're kind of curious to see where that works out. I've heard, but don't know for sure, they've tried working Elijah Judy a little bit more on the inside rather than on the exterior. I know he's been working out during spring break a lot back in Philly. So, and the coaching staff has talked really highly about him. I think Ed Foley was kind of complimenting him. I can't remember where at, but a couple of weeks ago here during winter workouts, kind of talked highly about him being a Philly guy and having that work ethic to him. So I think there's some personnel that they can fit in and move around, but I think I'm with you, Elijah. There's definitely questions. I think those questions could be answered the first couple of weeks of spring and who emerges out of there in scrimmages, but it is an area of concern, because I think in Tony White's aggressive defense and attacking, that front line has got to be able to hold their own.
Brady Oltmans is with us on Hail Varsity Radio. And Brady, when you look at the tight end room, obviously you've had injury after injury in the past couple of years, specifically with Thomas Fidone, and he's kind of been the talk of the offseason so far. How important is it? Obviously, it's really important for him to get through spring ball healthy, but the guys behind him as well, because you have, a pretty good amount of people in that tight end room that are capable of playing pretty high-level ball, but you want your best guys healthy at the right time.
Yeah, the tight end group kind of jumps out right away because of Fidone and then the addition of Eric Gilbert, guys who, were high star guys, a lot of talk guys coming in, but because of various, issues, Fidone's injuries, even Eric Gilbert's kind of personal things off the field that kind of kept him from being a consistent game breaker. I know Bill Bush was at LSU when Eric Gilbert was at LSU and said, this guy's just built different. Like, he's just a physically different athlete than any other, that we've seen there. But I kind of also I have a measured expectation for him because these guys haven't produced consistently. And even with Fedoni's injury history, I don't think you want to, send him out going 110 miles an hour this spring and risk something else happening. This coaching staff is very conscientious of repeated injuries and preventing them. But in Marcus Satterfield's pro style huddle up offense, the kind of more kind of wipe your nose and go for it, play after play kind of offense, they need reliable tight end play. And I think that's they're going to get to know what they need to do on Saturdays starting, this upcoming week.
Brady Oltmans with us here from HailVarsity.com and magazine at Brady Oltmans on Twitter. Find him and follow him. Really good follow and info here when it comes to spring coverage in Nebraska football. Who is going to have the biggest spring at quarterback? Is it obvious that it is Sims, or is it some other guys that have been in the program that could make a run? There's been some raving about the athleticism in that room at quarterback. I think you could see some position changes if guys want to stay and play for Rule. You'll have to. But there's a number of guys that we've all been anxious to see kind of turn the corner or take a step or have more opportunity. So who are you intrigued by? And I'm going to kind of put Sims off to the side because he's your 1A presumably along with Casey. But the rest of the crew, who do you want to kind of check in on and see what type of movement they can make?
Well, Heinrich is the guy that kind of jumps out. The coaching staff really loves his athleticism and really loves what he brings to the table. For whatever reason, Mark Whipple didn't see him as a cog in last year's machine.
Or Mickey.
Or Mickey, whoever was coaching. He just didn't jump off the page to any one of them. But athleticism-wise and ability-wise, he jumps out. Now, I don't know this for a fact. I haven't seen this in practice, but I also wouldn't be surprised if because of that athleticism, this coaching staff wants him on the field at some point and they see a better proximity to the field at like tight end or something like that. I mean, he's got the body for it. He's a great athlete. He could adapt like that. I just think that there's too many bodies potentially between him and the field at quarterback that maybe he gets a little bit closer to the field at tight end or something like that. Just, kind of initial impressions before spring ball. Chuba hasn't been mentioned a whole lot, but his athleticism stands out. I think GPS marking, they've said, has really stood out. And then Logan, we've really heard nothing of Logan Smothers at all. So that kind of the competition for the third quarterback, if you want to presume Sims and Casey as the 1 and 2 or 1A and 1B, that competition for the third quarterback just isn't really there, especially when your number 3 quarterback at Michigan last year, a walk-on from Hastings High, is no longer on the football roster. So somebody's going to have to emerge from there, and any one of those 3 would probably be your conventional pick.
Brady, what do you think is more heated of a position battle in that Husker backfield? Is it going to be the quarterback spot or the running back spot? And I think the obvious answer, people would just go with quarterback, but you look at that running back room and it's pretty stacked as well. And I think there's going to be some hot competition, not only through spring, but into fall practice as well.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you guys. I would not be surprised if A.J. Allen jumps the shark and maybe gets some snaps from Anthony Grant, especially in the spring. I mean, Anthony Grant proved himself last year, but I think AJ was jostling with him for some snaps, and then obviously his injury happened, and then Anthony takes the majority of it. I just think AJ Allen is in a position to really make some movements this spring, and I'm not ready to just anoint Anthony Grant, being the returner, that he's going to get 100 and some carries this season, or the vast majority of the carries this next season, just because he was the guy last year. I mean, this coaching staff wants to see the athleticism. They want to see how guys work in the offense, and I think it could be a very good 1-2 punch, but with kind of a 1A, 1B punch at running back, because I just wouldn't be surprised at all if A.J. Allen ends up being a guy that jumps off the page to them and emerges through spring ball as like we need this guy on the field more than we need him on the sidelines.
Brady, about 90 seconds here, bud, before we say goodbye. Of the running back group, anyone switch to fullback out of those names we already know?
Out of the names that we already know, I don't see it happening. I think Yant would have been a good one had he have not transferred out to Florida A&M. And I like that spot for him. I think he can really thrive down there. They've got the walk-on Trevor Ruth. I hope I'm remembering that name correctly. Sorry, Seward, Nebraska. I lived there for a couple of months, so I apologize. Deepest, I love you. He's a guy who played fullback and linebacker at UNK. I think he could, make movements there. They just the reality is they haven't recruited to have a fullback in recent years. And then that's kind of where they see depletion. I know EJ Barthel's excited to have a fullback in. He wants to see one. Marcus Satterfield's raved about the fullback. I just don't know. Snap wise, is it going to be a special package? I don't see it being a fullback on the field, 65% of snaps. I just don't see that happening year one because of personnel base. But I think Ruth is going to be the guy. If they have a fullback on the field, he would be my pick right now before spring ball.
Brady, can you play fullback?
Yes is the answer.
I've got some eligibility left, guys. I'll grit my teeth and get through it. I don't know if I can give you more than 4 snaps, especially if a blitz is coming. I might give you a half a snap. But
well, your job is to take the trap and score, Schlesinger style. Landon Turnus is a walk-on that's out of Columbus Lakeview that we'll get a look at fullback here down the road. Anytime you go to Columbus or Mackinac country, I'm good with that for Nebraska when they line up with, dare I say, 2 backs in the I formation. Brady Oltmans with us, HailVarsity.com and magazine at Brady Oltmans on Twitter is where you find him, as he'll be all over spring football for you. Brady, enjoy your weekend. We'll get together for a beer this weekend, hopefully, and get ready for spring. Thanks for the time today.
Yeah, no problem, guys. Thanks for chatting.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by Currency, a standout Husker and guy that's been doing a lot of great work in the NFL since 2019. Free agent deal for Luke Gifford, now with the Tennessee Titans. Luke joins us. Luke, thanks for a few minutes. How are you?
Of course. I'm great, guys. How are you guys doing?
We're hanging in. So take us through the process, Luke. And, man, a lot of good years in Dallas, but a new opportunity in Tennessee.
Yeah, for sure. I'm super grateful of my time in Dallas, and Dallas will, always will hold a special place in my heart because they've stuck with me through some tough times, and ups and downs, and kind of where I developed, so I'll always appreciate Dallas. But these last really couple of weeks leading up to free agency have been kind of crazy. Yesterday, for sure, a lot of talking on the phone and trying to figure out what's going on, and then when it happens quick, so it's over in a flash. But I'm really excited with the opportunity I have and going to Tennessee and playing for Coach Vrabel, so it should be a lot of fun.
Luke, quickly, before we get into the opportunity that you have in Tennessee, I've heard some rumors of a Cowboys-branded golf cart that's in your possession, and I was wondering what happens to something like that once you move teams.
To be honest with you, I don't know that I actually have one. I've seen everybody else's except for mine.
No way.
I might need to ask about that.
Sore subject, Elijah. Well played. So, do you have a golf cart? Is it just a naked golf cart?
No. I'm assuming we're probably talking about the Cowboys golf course, and usually they have every player on the team has at least a cart with their number on it.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's a great question, Elijah. I haven't seen mine, so I'm going to need to get a hold of somebody and see if I can get that shipped off if it's around.
Is that why you decided to go to Tennessee?
Yeah. I knew they were shorting me out there at the golf club, so that was half the reason of my decision for sure.
Well, when it comes to making the decision with Tennessee, you mentioned how it's a whirlwind here to make a decision. Tell me about why Tennessee's the fit. You mentioned Vrabel. Were there other suitors for you as well that you had to decide on?
Yeah. I honestly, this last year was probably my best year that I've had in the league, and had some really good options, and Dallas was one that was part of that. And, Tennessee just gave me the strongest offer, and really, I kind of identify with the same way that those guys do their business and play football. Coach Herbel is a tough, all about tough physical football, and I feel like that's me, just grinders. So I felt like it was a great fit for me, and I knew they valued me. So in the end, that was a big part of what played in my decision.
I got to ask the question because something like this would terrify me, but it's got to be nice to be going to a team that has Derrick Henry on it. You don't have to go tackle him in a game someday, but you're going to have to go up against a guy like that every single day in practice and in training camp. And I want to get your take. Is that something that worried you in this process? Are you excited to go play with a guy like that?
No, I'm sure he doesn't get touched in practice, honestly. But no, it'll be fun. That's how you get better. And fortunately, I've been around a lot of really good players here in Dallas, so I know what that looks like and how to practice with those guys and get better. So, yeah, it'll be a lot of fun being around him.
With the NFL, you're a guy that was undrafted, but you made an impression during that free agency period to start your career. Dallas loved you. Tell us about your journey throughout your career to find that niche on special teams and then also do really good work when called upon in that linebacking core.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was just coming to terms with what my role was, especially early in my career. I had opportunities and got hurt and was kind of in and out. So that was tough on me. But I really, the last 2 years, just embraced playing special teams. I think I realized how important it could be for my career and what I could do with it. And I knew that when I got my opportunities to play defense, I was just going to have to take advantage of it. And I think the biggest thing is just controlling the controllables. I can control how hard I work, how I prepare, how I treat people, and ultimately the rest will figure itself out one way or another. So I'm super pumped with how it went. I'm blessed and just really thankful.
What kind of role does Tennessee see you in under this new contract? It's a 2-year deal, and I don't know, usually special teams guys aren't getting $5 million in their contract. So I want to get your thoughts on if Tennessee has a role in mind for you, if that's going to be a wait-and-see type thing.
I think, like you said, for one, I'll have to be a special teams demon, Mm-hmm. And then I think that I could be looking at more of like a Sam outside backer role. And along with playing inside, at this day and age, you have to be able to do everything. So it kind of just is what it is. But I think there could be some kind of vision for something that I did more of in college, like blitzing and dropping from the line of scrimmage and that type of stuff. So something that I have in my background for sure. So we'll see what happens. And, whether it's inside or outside or just special teams, I'll take care of whatever my role is.
Luke, I want to talk a little bit about, and the reason I bring this up is Nebraska is in the midst of a defensive shift. They're 3-3-5 in it, but they're going to be multiple, and they're assessing right now what they have and who can fit and where can they get some difference makers to maybe show up. You're a guy that had a great career at Southeast and a great career in Lincoln, but you're also somebody that transitioned from tight end and safety to that linebacker spot. How difficult was that, and what did you also love about it, putting on weight to that frame and using your athleticism? I'm interested to hear how you were able to handle it.
Yeah, I think it's for me it's tougher for some than others, and for me it was pretty hard to gain weight at first, but then I kind of grew up into my body and it just kind of came with developing. But I think it's a great challenge. I think you look at most of the really good players in the league and guys that make it to the league are guys that move down a level, so started at safety and moved to linebacker or moved to linebacker and went down to D-end or something along those lines. Usually when you have that frame or that skill set, if you can hold the weight and make a change, it goes a long way. So I think you're going to see a lot of guys in this new defense in Nebraska that maybe you didn't see before or are getting fresh opportunity, similar to how I was when Coach Diaco came. So you just never know, man. I'm excited for what it'll look like, and I know all the rest of Nebraska fans are too. So,
Luke, at what point did you know in your own career that this was something that was attainable for you, going and getting a second contract in the NFL? Because I remember back, my first memory of you was the Class A state title game back your sophomore year of high school, I believe it was. You chased down an Omaha Burke running back from halfway across the field and you save a touchdown. And I was like, wow, that guy could be something special. But at what point did you know that you could be something special and a guy that could be earning a second contract in the NFL?
It's always been my dream, but I think that in college, even when, and I can honestly say this, even when I didn't play as well or as much as I wanted to when I was a freshman or sophomore, I knew that when I got the opportunity that I could take advantage of it and be where I wanted to be. I felt like I was always kind of getting hampered by injuries and stuff like that, but I knew that really, I had my junior year, those 6 or 7 games that I had, and played pretty well and got hurt, but I knew that all I had to do was stay healthy and I could be where I wanted to. Obviously there's a lot more that goes into that, a lot of situational stuff, but I always had the belief it was just making it happen and being available. So I'm pretty blessed to be where I'm at for sure.
Luke, best to you. Congratulations on your success and ending up in Tennessee with your second contract. Thanks for a few minutes with us.
Of course. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time on a Friday, St. Patrick's Day edition of Hail Varsity Radio. It's Elijah Herbel taking you through the final segment here on the St. Patrick's Day edition, as it's been a loaded show. Back tomorrow morning, a quick reminder, something new we've been trying out here. Not going to be on the air for your Saturday morning edition, so if you're used to tuning into Hail Varsity Radio on the air on KFOR, not going to be there, as we make the switch fully online for our Saturday morning edition. That's going to run from 7:30 until 9 tomorrow morning. Chris Schmidt, Mark Kraynak, myself, Elijah Herbel, going to be with you on a Saturday morning again, beginning at 7:30, live streaming online. You can catch that. The Hail Varsity YouTube page is probably the best way to look it up if you're used to catching us on the air. Again, look up Hail Varsity on YouTube and you will find our live stream about 7:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. You can also find it on the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter page and the KFOR Sports Facebook and Twitter. And if you don't want to get up early with us on a 7:30 a.m. wake-up call for your Saturday, well, no worries. It's going to be posted up in podcast form as well, and you can catch the video version of the live stream shortly following the conclusion of our show tomorrow morning. So a lot of great ways to check it out. Even if you like catching us on the air, a lot of great ways online. We encourage you to check us out that way. Again, Hail Varsity Radio podcast version. You can look us up Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, or also Google Play. And then, as always, the Hail Varsity YouTube page, a great resource. We post up every single show in full with video on the Hail Varsity YouTube page. Saturday morning is included, and today's show will be included as well. And while you're at it, drop a review. Drop a rating. Let us know what you think. We do this show for you, the people, so we want it to be the best product possible for you. If you think there's something we can improve, or if you just want to tell us good job, leave us a review wherever you catch us online. We'd appreciate it. Those reviews help us pay the bills. Again, today we had a loaded show. We led off with the Hall of Fame coach Jeff Smith, longtime assistant with Nebraska, and then a longtime head coach at Lincoln Southeast High School. And if he wasn't retired, he'd be playing NCAA tournament all day in class. One of those guys, the coach Jeff Smith, leading off the show. We also heard from Jacob Padilla talking some NCAA tournament back in hour one, as well as the offseason plan for Husker basketball, some transfer portal news and notes with the Husker basketball team as well. Jacob Padilla back in hour one. And then we had Irish slang trivia from when Mark and Schmidty were out in Dublin. That was a fun segment. I had to play it again for you, so you heard all that back in hour one. Here in hour two, we had Bill Doleman, Husker football, his spring preview led off the hour. We also heard from Brady Oltmans, and then we had our rewind segment with Luke Gifford. All of that here this hour. And your reminder, if you missed any of it, or if you're in one of our affiliate locations that was not carrying Hail Varsity Radio today, catch it online. I already listed all the places you can catch Hail Varsity Radio online. That's whenever you want us, wherever you are listening, you can catch Hail Varsity Radio online. That's, again, a great resource, and we really love our listeners that catch this show in tape-delayed format. Before I let you go, a quick reminder that nearly 70% of people in fatal crashes in Nebraska are not wearing a seatbelt if used properly. A seatbelt can reduce the risk of fatal injury by up to 60%. So remember, your best defense in any crash, buckle up. A message brought to you by the Nebraska Department of Transportation Highway Safety Office. A big thank you to everyone that joined us today, including Connor Clark and Chris Schmidt, who hopped on here with me. Again, we'll be back tomorrow morning, 7:30 to 9 a.m. Mark Kraynak, Chris Schmidt, myself will hear from Brandon Vogel and Gary Sharp as we get both of their full spring previews as Nebraska kicks off spring practices on Monday. We hope to hear from you on a Saturday morning edition of Hail Varsity Radio. That is when we'll talk to you again. This is Elijah Herbel signing off and saying see you tomorrow.